All right, so fee sharing. Is it proper to share a fee with another lawyer? What we're talking about here is a lawyer that you have no relationship with. Obviously, if you're in a firm, all the associates and partners, etc., that's not fee sharing. If you have some kind of a partnership agreement, written partnership agreement, you share your fees pursuant to the partnership agreement. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about a lawyer that you have no formal relationship with. It's a referral, is what it is. It comes up in personal injury cases. Let's say you're a tax lawyer, and one of your neighbors is in a car accident, and they come to you and say, I'd like you to represent me in this personal injury matter. And you say, I don't know anything about personal injury, but I sure know lawyers in the area who are very, very good at this. And you retain the client, and then you have a separate referral agreement with this other attorney. And you are sharing in the fee that's generated by that matter. Now, there's definitely requirements for sharing the fee, and there's really two ways you can do it. Now, I do want to say this, however. The professional rule, we talked about this before, the professional rules of conduct have been ratified in every state, but every state will tweak the particular rule. So it's uniform, but it's also customized to your state. So I would, if you're gonna do a fee sharing agreement, I would strongly urge you to look at your state's version of the rules because it might be tweaked a little bit. So what I'm going to be talking about really is the general rule. Now, this is ABA 1.5E of the professional rules. Now, there's two ways you can do it. You can have a fee sharing agreement where the fee division, how much, what percentage you get, what percentage of the referring attorney gets, has to be proportional to the services performed. What that means is both lawyers are working on the case, and it's perfectly fine. But if one lawyer is doing, say, 25% of the work and the other lawyer is doing 75% of the work, the division of fees has to be concurrent with that. But what if you don't want to do any work? What if you just want to hand off the case, which is what a lot of referrals are? The tax lawyer doesn't want to do any part of this. He just wants to shuffle it off to the personal injury lawyer and share in a fee. Well, you can do that. However, the second way you do it is that both lawyers assume joint responsibility for the representation. How do you do that? There's an agreement. We get referrals, many referrals. My practice is based on many referrals. And we have a standard fee sharing agreement. And what it basically says, and it also has to be disclosed to the client, we'll talk about that in a minute. This is what I'm going to do. You're, basically, however you want to create the language, you're not really responsible to do anything. Once I get this case, the only other thing that you're going to have any connection with this case is someday you're going to get a check. But you're not participating in it, so the percentage doesn't have to be proportional to the work done because the other lawyer is not doing any work. But he or she has to assume joint responsibility. And that means that if something goes wrong, they're going to be on the hook too for professional liability. The next thing that has to be done is the client has to consent to this in writing with disclosure. And our form is very simple. It says, I have entered into a fee sharing agreement on this particular matter with this lawyer. I get this much, he gets this much. I'm primarily responsible for all the work, etc. And we make the client sign off on it. They consent to it. It's not a lengthy document, but you need to have the consent of the client. And the final requirement is, of course, and this applies to any fees, the total fee has to be reasonable. So there can be many situations in your practice, especially if you get a referral from a client who comes into an area that you know nothing about, but you see that there's some value there, and you'd like to be able to share in the fee and put the client in good hands. And that's really the best way for consumers and clients to find a lawyer. For them, they don't really know, unless they have experience, who's good and who's not, who you want to retain, who you want to avoid, but we do. So this is an excellent way for you to put your client in the hands of a competent attorney and still share some of the fee.